we've built like 4 or 5 different tools within the agency for different things. So we have one that our sales team use for like prospecting. We have one that we're using to scrape other people's sites to grab leads from. It was a AI receptionist. And I was like, oh, we need to push our table back by 15 minutes. Oh, you want to book a table for 15 people? They charge $150,000 for a basic WordPress site because of the size of they are as an agency. So they forward all of those small leads to them over to us.
Tom, thank you so much for coming on the Agency Growth Club today.
My pleasure.
So we're going to get straight into the deep end, and we're going to go on, obviously, AI, massive hot topic at the minute. I've got a few questions on AI, but let's start off the conversation with, what's the one AI tool right now that you can't live without?
One that we actually built ourselves. So I know everyone's been using Cowork and Claude and stuff to build tools. We've built like 4 or 5 different tools within the agency for different things. So we have one that our sales team use for like prospecting. We have one that we're using to scrape other people's sites to grab leads from. We've got like an ops one to manage all of our sales flow, who's winning the most in terms of sales reps and stuff like that. So I'd say the tools that we've built, but we're using Claude pretty much every day for most things in the agency now.
I love that we're now in a time where we can just talk about that, and it's not as if you had to raise millions and millions to go create those. You can just kind of, I don't want to say do them overnight, but if you have the right team, you can. Let's dive into that sales and prospecting one. You don't have to give us the blueprint of it, but yeah, can you give us a brief overview of what you built on that?
Mainly for our cold stuff. So we've never really dived into cold outreach in terms of calls or emails until like the last couple of months, just because we've not had the time. But what we've been doing is we built a tool that basically scrapes loads of data, but also Google Maps. So we just plugged in a Google Map API key, or Places, I think it's called. And then we can put in an industry and a location, and it just basically spits out all of the stuff that it scraped from Google My Business. And then some of those don't have websites and stuff, so the team will cold outreach. Some of them have websites, but they're shit. So we'll then put together a bit of a report and stuff like that and send it across. So it's been good just to cut time. And I know it's the typical thing that people say about AI all the time, but these tools don't take long to do if you understand what you're doing with coding and developing. And I think that's where, and I had this chat a lot recently with other people think that they can just literally start building straight away, which you can do. But then when things start going wrong and Claude doesn't help you, or Gemini or whatever you're building in, that's where it can get really difficult. So thankfully, our ops manager used to be a developer. He's really, really awesome and just knows his way around stuff. So Jake, my other half, has been like building stuff and things are broke, and he's been like stressing over it for hours. And then Bruce will come on and just fix it within like 5 minutes or something. So you got to have the understanding, I think, and the knowledge. But then when you do, I mean, you can build stuff within a couple of hours, right? It's super cool.
100%. I love that. And is that cold outreach? Is that predominantly email?
Yeah, mainly email and LinkedIn outreach. Cold calling, we did at the very beginning, like years and years ago, but I hated it. And I think if you do it in mass and you have a right team, it's really good. But we've still been playing about with it. But the main thing is cold email and LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a massive one for us in terms of client acquisition.
I love that. Did you know you may already know this, but did you know on LinkedIn you can request to download all of your enriched data? So all of your connections, all of the people you've chatted to. Did you know this?
No.
So if you go into settings and privacy and then go into data, whatever the thing is, you can then request to add and get your enriched data. I think it takes maybe 48 hours for them to give it to you. But what you can then do that is you can put it into Claude or whatever you use, and you can segment it into, you can base it on your ICP. So what it did for me was it took, from my connections of like 20,000, it took 4,000 and something that match our ICP. Then it broke it into like our big whales, our tier 1, our tier 2. And then you can do personalized outreach to each one of them, which we're still building at the minute. I only found this out like last week, and it was like insane for me. But what it can also do is go through all of your posts. based on engagement, likes, comments, like all of this, and it can build you like a whole LinkedIn strategy as well on it, which is really, really cool. But yeah, there's one. There's the first 4 minutes. Hopefully there's some value in both of our answers on that.
100%. With once you've put the data in and you've segmented it and stuff, and you've got those different personalized outreach, are you then using AI to send those connection requests off, or are you doing that manually?
So I'm handling the whales. So I think we have 224 whales where I want to send them a personalized email and I want to give them some kind of value. So we're still trying to figure out what that is. So most of that will be US in-house and big agencies. So I want it to be super personalized, all the language, like straight at them, and I want it to come from me. And then the team are managing the other 3,800 where they're putting it into, I think it's on the HubSpot, they're sending everything out. But again, we're still, so in HubSpot, there's a prospecting agent that goes through and can personalize it all. So that's our
HubSpot too. So that's good.
Yeah. So that's our plan of attack on that.
I like.
Awesome. My next question, Tom, is, so this is something that we keep on getting asked by a lot of our clients, especially on discovery calls. And it's, they want to hire somebody who is, let's say, an SEO manager, and they've got all of these AI skills that they need to be doing. And it's kind of 50-50 split at the minute. You've got the people that on the team that they understand where the industry is going, and you guys need to be like using AI every single day. It's like worked into your actual workflows, everything like that. And then there's people that for some reason are still like, I don't want to touch it, it's garbage, whatever. How do you train your team up at Nautilus to be using AI on a consistent basis, but to actually be using it for revenue generating tasks as well?
Really good question. I think we're very lucky in the team that we have. They're very self-sufficient, I think is the right word, but they're engaged in what's going on and they enjoy it. And I think a lot of the times in agencies, when you have someone that isn't willing to upskill themselves or add in extra time to learn about new stuff, it not just affects client results, but also the team in general. And I think especially with AI and the way that SEO is going, GEO, AEO, whatever you want to call it, because it's changing so much. I think people in agencies or agencies in general, if they're not keeping up with what's going on, they'll either get fired or they'll just start getting really bad client results, and then clients are going to leave and the agencies will go under because it's not sustainable from a business and operations and like a logistics point of view. And I think it's so important for, and going on to like hiring and stuff, having people that are willing to grow with the business and are willing to upskill themselves in a sense of they will go out and say, Tom, I found this amazing Claude skill. It's really good. It's changing how I'm doing keyword research. It's changing how we're doing like audits for clients. And that's what one of the team did. They were like, I actually think we can cut down the time that we're doing for SEO audits for like leads and prospects. We built out this whole thing in, what's it called? Visual Studio Code, where we just stick in the client URL. It spits out a Nautilus branded report. We get a full summary one, which has a bit of a strategy in based on previous client data, what we've done. But then it also spits out a condensed, simpler version for clients that we can share with them and be like, actually, your website's performing really, really bad. You're not even being found on LLMs and stuff like that. So yeah, it's you've got to keep on top of it from a business point of view, but also with the team as well, I think too.
Yeah, I love that bit that you mentioned about the hiring. I was just on a call just before this with a good friend of mine, and he's in a very fortunate position where he has basically said that he doesn't want to do client work anymore and he wants to be building tools. Very, very smart guy. He's been given 200K offers. Sorry, not 200K offers, a few offers that are 200K. Some of them have share equity, some of them, all this. And there's a guy that I know from LA who owns a big agency who's like big on the AI side. And what my friend did is he hacked into his tool and then told him all the bugs that are inside his tool. And that's how he just got on a call with the founder last night, right? And the founder like offered him a job on the thing. It's not the salary that he wants, so he was asking for a bit of advice on that, and I gave him a bit of advice to go back. But I feel like there's so many ways to stand out to like someone like yourself, if somebody was trying to work with Nautilus or whatever, it's so easy to stand out today, but just nobody goes the extra mile. But it's easier said than done.
We had it actually. I had a cold outreach on LinkedIn about a week ago from an AI consultant, and they'd built a dashboard that they'd built for Nautilus for clients. Evidently, what they've done is they just created the same one and then just changed the logo and put it on a Versal domain and just sent it across. But I was like, that's quite a nice way to get my attention, and it worked quite well. So yeah, it's good.
Awesome. And Tom, I was going to add a bit of beef to the story, but where do you see the industry going?
Good question. I don't think anyone knows. And I think that is a genuine and honest answer, because AI is overtaken stuff 100%. AI overviews, LLMs, people are using them more so than Google, perhaps. But I still think Google will have a place from an SEO and a search point of view. You know, Google Maps isn't going to go anywhere. Everyone uses that every day. There's great things that you can do with that in terms of rankings. And I still think with us in the industry, I think we use AI a lot, but I think there is still a lot of people that don't use it. And I was actually talking about this in my Slack group the other day with some guys that are all founders, and we hop on a call once a month and just chat about the industry. And they were all saying, like, we use it, but I can guarantee there's like 80% of people in the world that still don't use it. So I think it still has its place, but I think everyone just needs to keep on top of what's going on and adapt and change. A little bit like the whole COVID thing, right? When businesses went under, people were changing the way that they do business. I think that's exactly the same with AI. You have to be skilled in navigating things and changing things up.
Yeah. What you just said really resonated with me. I think it was around this time last year. So I live in Portugal, and it's like a little fisherman village beside like the resorts. And I remember just being so in my head of like, I need to be like way ahead of everybody else, like building this, AI, whatever. And I went down and I got a coffee, and I forgot to bring cash, right? And I couldn't buy a coffee because the village that is there beside the sea only accept cash, right? They don't have POS systems. They all just have cash. And I was like, right, Josh, take a breath and just chill out. And I feel like you can just get so in your head because again, literally what you said, when you're in the weeds of doing that day to day, it's you just kind of think it's like second nature to everybody else, but it's definitely not.
And that's a great example. Everywhere in the world pretty much accepts cards, but there's places and small villages and stuff that don't. And yes, they might not be our ICP and from a client point of view, but there are so many people that aren't using AI. And that's where, if loads of people shift to AI and forget normal SEO, there's loads of opportunities for people that are still doing the traditional stuff. And I don't think it's going to go anywhere. As I said, Google Maps isn't going to go anywhere, and there's so much stuff you can do that from an SEO point of view. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
And so see your clients that you have on SEO contracts, have you upsold them on GEO services, or are you bundling that into the current SEO packages?
So we have what we call like a starter package for SEO, which is basically just the basics. For that, we kept the same. It's mainly on-page stuff that we do for them, a bit of technical stuff and content. Whereas the other packages that we do and the more bespoke stuff, we've just kind of added it in anyway. But we're doing loads of stuff with like Reddit mentions, which has really like helped when we've looked at data. Digital PR as well, which we started to offer a couple of years ago, and we've sort of grown it steadily over the years, and it works really, really well. So a lot of clients we have as a base retainer, and then they might buy 50 Reddit mentions that will roll out over a couple of months, and they might do some PR articles and press releases and stuff too. So we're very different to other agencies in a sense of we don't have one retainer that covers everything. We mix and match things, and whatever the client needs, we kind of add on, really.
Awesome. And so mentioning contracts there, I think I watched in a podcast last night that you guys don't do the traditional 12 to 24 month contracts. You guys do like 30-day rolling contracts. Is that correct?
Yeah, basically for the basic package that we offer, we have a minimum of 6-month commitment because it's a very small offer in terms of revenue. And we don't want clients to be in it for 2 months and then be like, no, I don't want to do it anymore because we invest a lot of time. But for our bigger contracts, no. And the reason is because I think we have a very good high client retention rate, and clients stick around for a very long time. And we don't have contracts in place to keep them locked in. They obviously must like what we do and they must like the results that we get for them. So I don't think there's a need to do that. Sometimes when we're pitching for like tenders and things like that, within the tender they have a 12-month commitment anyway. But more often than not, those are like 90 payment terms and things like that. So for the big tenders that we do, yes, but for the day-to-day clients and what's standard in our terms and conditions, we don't. We just do 30 days notice.
I love that. I personally have never liked contracts. Like, I just, in my head, if the service is good enough or the product or whatever is good enough, you're going to keep on coming back. I feel like that should be the job of the service and the product. I think when you get locked into a contract, it just makes it feels fishy. It doesn't matter what age I was. Whenever I probably first had a debit card and like a small amount of disposable income, I've just always hated contracts. So
Sure.
On that, you mentioned great client retention rate. Bar doing great work, is there anything else that you guys do to try and keep people on?
I think communication. I think a lot of agencies hide behind portals and stuff, which, don't get me wrong, has its place for low ticket stuff. But I think people want to build a relationship with whoever they're working with. And because we offer so many different services, a client might start with us on an SEO retainer, but eventually, they might want to add ads with us. They might want to do digital PR. They might want us to manage their website. So for us, it's a case of building that relationship and not just offering services because we want the extra money. And I think we've probably done ourselves out of a lot of money over the years where we could have sold services to clients, but I wouldn't sell them something that they don't need. And I'm very, even on discovery calls with clients, that the fee that I take nowadays, I'm not going to sell you something you don't need. I'm not going to sell you something that in 3 months' time, you're going to be like, why the hell am I doing social media when all I want is leads? And, we're going to focus on ads for that. So I think building up a great rapport, good communications, not sending shitty reports that no one has a clue of what they mean, jump on a call and have that conversation with people. And I was on a call with a partner yesterday, and they were saying that within their agency, they'll just jump on a phone call, and they said so many agencies now are using AI for reports and client portals and chatbots and things like that, which has its place, but you're always going to have a human element. And we have a main office phone number. I've been toying with the fact of having a AI receptionist, but so many people call up and book in a call with us. I just don't think it would work. I think it works for good companies like Tesla and things like that, where it's very transactional. They need a servicing agreement or they need something. But whereas with us, we have a chat with them on the phone, see what they want, book them in a call with one of the teams. So yeah.
I love that. And I think it was last Wednesday so we've got quite a big client in the US we've done a load of hiring for, and they want to hire another 3 roles with us. And I just asked, like, we've hired with them before, we know everything that they're selling, we've got job descriptions, like outcome focused scorecards, everything. And I just said, I was like, can we just get like a realignment with the whole team, the hiring team on their side? And I brought on my team. I jumped on. The founder even jumped on. There's like a 150 person agency in the US that have got an 8-month wait list of clients that have taken deposits as well, which is crazy. But we're on with them. And again, the beauty of just being able to like just go back and forth, ask questions and hear it from like a voice type of thing rather than an email, rather than a Slack chat. Like my whole team came on the next day when we were on our huddle. I was like, did everybody get value from that? And they were like, oh, honestly, like, we now, even though we've got everything we needed from job descriptions, outcome scorecards, everything, it's just like, there's just a different level of clarity and just being able to chat with people of like, yeah, so I 100% get that. And I think it would annoy me if I rang up you, Tom, and tried to get a Holy's to book in a call and some AI bot was telling me to go.
Absolutely.
Have you
and
tried?
I think in future it could work well. But I remember a couple of weeks ago, my parents were down to see us and we went to a restaurant. We were going to be running late. So I'm just going to call the restaurant just to tell them we're going to be 15 minutes late. It was a AI receptionist. And I was like, oh, we need to push our table back by 15 minutes. Oh, you want to book a table for 15 people? And I was like, no, we already have a table. I just want to move it back by 15 minutes. And I was getting so frustrated. I just put the phone down. So I get that.
Yeah. Look, I think AI voice definitely has its perks. So at salaryguide.com, my other company, we've just built an AI career agent, and on that we had to do like a startup pitch to 11 labs. So we got through on that, and we're basically using their voice agent in our AI career agent, and it's based on all of our data points in our knowledge base or whatever. But if somebody was going for a job at Nautilus, you could put up the job description, we could put in like your LinkedIn URL, whatever, and it would like create fake interviews or performance reviews. I think it's really good for like getting
Oh,
your
wow.
confidence up and doing role play on that. But
Yeah,
if I was trying to get something really quick and it did that to me, I'd be straight on to the next
absolutely.
person.
No, that's really cool.
And you mentioned, okay, so you've got a few different services. Let's say somebody comes in and you mention you can then buy like an extra package of 50 Reddit mentions. Have you got a dedicated person on the team that does sales? Have you got upselling based into a KPI for the rest of the team? Or is it you that manage that? What way does it work?
Yeah, so we're at 27 nerds now. And we split that between, we've got a design team, dev team, and then marketing, which is split between paid and organic. And then we have a sales team. So we actually made a change at the start of this year. So before, Jake, my other half, and I would basically just cross over and we do a bit of sales, we do a bit of ops, manage the team. But now Jake moved over to just doing the ops with our ops manager. So Jake kind of oversees everything. And then I manage the sales team only. And I'm a very personal person and I take things to heart. So when things aren't going right, I get quite stressed and I get very emotional. Whereas Jake is a bit like the bad cop. He just goes straight in, removes the emotion, does what he needs to do. So Jake looks after the ops side of stuff and I just manage the sales team now, which has been really good. But our sales team have their own sales commission structure, but then within the team, all the account managers, if they upsell anything, they get 10% commission. That's like if it's a retainer upsell, they get it on the first month, where as our sales team, all of their billables is done like on a monthly basis and they get percentages based on what their monthly sort of billable is and sort of money that's brought into the agency. But we don't really have any KPIs for the account management team in terms of upsells. Again, I think it's purely, I don't want to just have a KPI. You got to sell 50K in upsells this year because I think then it becomes forced and you lose the authenticity that the account managers build up with the clients. So, but then again, most of the team do a lot of upsells because the clients need the extra services and it's a nice natural fit rather than, I'm going to sell you a 20 grand SEO package just because I want to hit my quota kind of thing.
I love it. And so you mentioned, I think it was 22 nerds, right?
Yeah, we fluctuate. Well, we're at 27 now, but we've got a couple of people that are moving on to different pastures and stuff. But yeah.
Have you got what does your nerd vetting process look like?
Nerd vetting process. I would always hire a person based on who they are. And I think we've made very bad mistakes in the past by looking at data on a CV rather than the actual person because we need to hire them. But people are very good at elevating things on their CV or elevating interview questions and things like that. Because, if I ask you a question, what did you bill last year? If there's no proof behind that, you could say, £250,000. And we've made some really bad decisions from a sales perspective of hiring the wrong salespeople. And I've been too nice of giving them more chances than they probably need. There's always that saying, isn't there? Hire quicker, fire faster, or something like that. But I look at CVs obviously, but I think it's more about the vibe that we get. And because we're completely remote and we've got team in the UK, we've got team in South Africa, the culture that we have for a remote company, I'd say, is very good. I think we're going to head down to Cape Town in the end of the year and see the guys and have a drawl, as they say. We flew them over for a team trip, not last year, the year before, and that was just hectic. South Africans can drink like more than I thought we as like Brits could drink, which was just on another level. But I think just understanding a person, I don't look at if anyone's been to university or anything like that. If they've got good case studies, if they've got good data that they've worked on, they've got a good personal brand on LinkedIn, all those kind of stuff really, rather than, you know, a boring corporate CV. But we're not a boring agency and a corporate agency, so it all ties in, I guess, with a nerdy approach.
I love that. I've got a few of the team down in South Africa as well, and I keep on saying I'm going to go down to Cape Town to do a big barbecue. I genuinely will. I was planning to go. It was either last month, and then the whole Dubai thing killed all the flights and everything was a bit crazy. So I was like, right, I'll chill out for a bit. But I think I'll definitely go for maybe a month next January or something like that. But on that, the reason that I asked about the nerd vetting process, obviously you said nerd, but Harry Sanders that owns StudioHawk, that's one of his things when he hires, is one of his things is that we need to have wholesome nerds. And what I love is that because they're a client of ours, so we have to bake that into our vetting process of like, and it's wholesome nerds where it has to be, it's something, somebody has to be like really nerdy passionate about something like that, and they need to like lighten up when they talk about something completely different to SEO. It could be, you know, a gaming thing or whatever it is. And I think that's such a cool thing, and it just shows like, again, like their culture that they've built is like phenomenal. So yeah, that's the reason I asked that.
Yeah, they're a really cool brand. I was on a panel with Sophie last year at a conference in London, and we jumped on a call at the start of the week, actually last week, and we were talking about the whole nerdy thing because she and Harry both play a game called RuneScape, and my other half, Jake, is like completely obsessed about it. And she was saying about the whole nerdy thing, and I think it's really good. But then I think on the other hand, people that are very data driven and have very passionate about a specific subject is great if they're in a data role. But I think for someone that works in account management, they need to have that charisma, they need to have that energy. So there's a fine balance of the nerdy stuff, but not being so introverted that, you know, you can't jump on a call with a client if there's an issue, talking through that, you know, going through like conflict resolution and things like that too, which I think is also really important. So definitely a balance for sure.
I love that. And so one thing we're trying to build at the minute is from a candidate, so from a professional's POV, right? Let's say somebody start with Nautilus, or over the last 8 years, what is one thing that someone has done on the onboarding process that's really stood out to you? It could be a few things.
In a sense of the new person that's joined the team.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things, and I really enjoy, and I ask everyone that joins, is, you know, they'll go through an onboarding process, a couple of weeks, get themselves embedded into the team, and I will have a very open conversation with them and be like, what would you change? From a service delivery point of view, from an account management point of view, what systems we're using, because, and it's that cringy thing, right, of I hire people because they're more smarter than me, because like I said to you before we started recording, I was like, don't ask me technical SEO questions because I'm a pretty face to a degree. And I understand SEO, but I don't work in the thick of it. And that's why when we're hiring people, we're always looking at the technical stuff of, okay, what does this mean? Why would you do that? And educate me, talk to me like you're a client. And I think when we onboard people and they've got used to our systems, I'm not a very personal person, as if, you know, something doesn't work, tell me it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? What could we do better? So whether that be how we send our client reports, whether that be the onboarding questions that we're asking. A great example was when one of our new social media team joined a couple of years ago, and she said, how we're doing this onboarding is absolutely awful. I need to change the questions, because what's happening is when we're onboarding clients for social media or LinkedIn ghostwriting, we're getting to a point where we don't have content from them. So let's build in from the very beginning how we're going to get them to provide us more content, work on that with them, do some workshops, give them some top tips and things like that too, to make their lives easier. So it makes our lives easier when we're creating content. So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing, seeing what we can do better to offer a better service for clients, but also internal processes stuff too.
Awesome. I love that. It's made me think about quite a few things. The next thing I wanted to talk about was your personal brand. So like I said, since we got introduced maybe a month ago, I've had multiple people tell me about you. I've seen you kind of everywhere. You've got your podcast, you've been on podcasts. How much do you do that for fun, or is there business impact along the way?
That's a really good question. I started the podcast years ago, and it was just, I think I started it when I was living at my parents before we bought our house. And I just did it as a bit of fun because I was bored in between client stuff. And it was just audio. And then one of my friends was like, oh, you should start doing video. And he started up a podcast producing company, which was really cool. Um, and I've done, I think it's like 200 videos or something on YouTube, but I kind of fell out of love with creating the content because what I felt like was I was repeating myself all the time. So I've taken a bit of a break from that side of stuff. But LinkedIn is, and I said to you earlier, is like one of our biggest drivers in terms of revenue and acquisition for clients. But also, I used to be a very introverted person from a sense of I wouldn't talk to any competitors. I'd be in my own little box, my own little lane. But we partner with a lot of agencies. And I'd probably say it's how we get a lot of our bigger retainers and bigger clients. We're a full service agency and we partner with maybe bigger agencies that only do SEO, for example. So StudioHawk, for example, one of our partners, they only do SEO and we work with them. And if we get leads that aren't a good fit for us for SEO, we send them to them. If they get things that come through that aren't a good fit for them or different services that they want to do, they'll fire it over to us. We pay a lifetime commission to all of our partners and it works really well. So now, from a couple of years ago when we started to see like actually partners works really well for us, we go to loads of events. I go for gin and tonics with as many people as possible. I set as many partner sort of catch up calls with as possible, Slack groups with our partners, and our sales team are building it out too. So I think I was in the very much of a mindset of I don't want to talk to my competitors. It's bad, that kind of stuff. But we've built the most amazing friendships with other agency owners. And I built a Slack community a few months ago. It was originally on school, but we moved over to Slack, just of male founders in the agency space, in other different industries as well. And that's been really nice from a networking point of view. But, owning a business can be quite lonely at times. And, we've been going through so many issues from an ops perspective or a logistics point of view. We've had cash flow issues in the past, and having other people that you can talk to about those things, I think is really important.
I love that. Okay, I've got two follow-up questions on that. The first one is the agency, so the partnerships. Mm-hmm. Maybe this is just the competitive side of my brain. Maybe this doesn't happen, but if let's say you have a partner and you guys are giving them all the leads, right? So like, let's say you give them 10 leads and you get 0 back in the space of a year. Do you then cut them off as a partner, or do you just continue them on?
I don't think that's ever happened because, and if it has, I've been oblivious to it maybe, but I love to make friends. And as we saw before we started recording, I love to talk. And the partners that we have partnerships with, I wouldn't see them as partners. They're more of like friends and like a network. Okay. So great example, one of our biggest partners, they're a 300-person agency in the US. They're full service, all onshore team, and they work with some huge brands, but they get loads of what they would call small leads, i.e. $20,000 for a website, which for us is great. They charge $150,000 for a basic WordPress site because of the size of they are as an agency. So they forward all of those small leads to them over to us. And then when we get stuff that isn't a good fit for us, there was a client that wanted TikTok shop and TikTok ads, but they wanted to work with an on-site agency in the US. Wasn't a good fit for us. We sent them over. It was a 10 grand a month retainer to them. We got 2 grand a month for the lifetime that they're with them. It works quite well. So I think if you partner with the right agencies, you're not going to be giving away all of your leads. And that's why we're very picky with the partners that we work with, because I don't want to give away stuff that we could do internally. But if they're not a good fit for us, I'll happily pass them over to a partner. But most of the partners that we do have, I'd say, we swap with each other. Or if they don't give us any leads, we might do their SEO because they're an ad agency, or we might do their PR and their Reddit mentions and they're an SEO agency only. So kind of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Awesome. I love it. And the founder Slack community that you've got, what would you say the biggest obstacle most founders are coming into contact with is?
I mean, I could say like business things, but I think a lot of it is just having a community of people that they can talk to. A guy joined the other day that he's just started as a startup. None of his friends own businesses. He has no idea what he's doing. Feels a bit lonely. And you know, I think we've only got like 20 people in the Slack group, but most people are engaged. We have a monthly call each month where we chat about stuff. So I think just having a community of people that they can go to with problems. And the reason that I set it up was I noticed a lot of male agency owners had sadly taken their lives, and like people quite close to us, and none of them had gone to people to say that there was an issue. And that's why I was like, right, I've got loads of friends that have got agencies. This also could be a good opportunity for a community, bit of networking, helping each other out. And it sort of formed quite naturally. Loads of us are going to an event in Barcelona this year, sorry. And we met up at the previous one, and people are all over. So it's quite a nice community.
Awesome. I love that. And I will see you at the event in Barcelona. But yeah, I feel like that's the way things are going. I feel like there's going to be so much more in-person events and community building that's going to be needed for people's health.
Especially with AI, right?
Yeah, you can think that you're talking to people through AI, right? Like you've got different personas, all of this, but it's not real. And that's what I told you. Like I'm in between Portugal. I said it's really nice and chill, and the people here are very, very successful, but they're all like 60, 70 years old, which is lovely, but it's not from the people my age that are just busy building things. I just told you I was in London there for 2 weeks, and I came back and I'm like just full of excitement, being like just all the connections, all of that. So I absolutely love that.
But I also get maybe when you're in Portugal and you're talking to those older people, they're not going to be on their phones. They're not going to be, oh, sorry, I just need to. I mean, obviously that doesn't happen all the time, but I think you can maybe have a lot better conversations when those distractions aren't there, from like a tech point of view. Whereas London is very busy and, there's so much going on. I think it's probably quite nice to maybe sit in a bar with someone that's done what you want to do, and you can pick their brains and ask questions. And I guess that's why you were saying having that split between the UK and somewhere like that, because you've got the balance of both. So that's really interesting.
Yeah. And you know what? Right, this has gone very off topic from agency growth and so forth, but in terms of connections and that. So every day when I go to the gym, I go to the sauna after, and it's like one of my favorite times of the day, because I just feel like, again, depending on what area you're in, you can meet some really cool, interesting people, and they don't have to be successful business owners. They could be whatever walk of life. But for me, it's just a great way to connect with people. And the actual science behind it is that when you're in the sauna, you let off a chemical called oxytocin. And the reason is because your brain basically thinks it's starting to fry itself. So it's like reaching out for help. So you get deeper connections when you talk to people, right? Really but when good. I was just in Austin in Texas for 6 months. And I don't want to go on about like sauna culture, because I know there's going to be, if there's US people listening to this, they think that's like men naked in a sauna. It's not. It's just like just go into the sauna after the gym. But in America, everybody's got headphones on and they're on their phone on either TikTok or YouTube or whatever. They're also like wearing shoes and socks, which is like its own different conversation. It's crazy. But that's really strange. It's very rare to be able to talk to somebody in America in the sauna, and then you come over here and it's like, if you bring your phone in, people are looking at you funny, being like, no, that's not what we do over here. Leave the phone out and like have a chat. And again, it comes back to the whole building a community, chatting with people in person. But yeah,
I agree with that 100%. The gym and the spa that Jake and I go to, I've not been able to train for ages. So Jake's gone to the gym. I've just gone in the sauna and gone for a swim and stuff. And I've met so many cool people. There was a scaffolder that I was talking to. He wants some stuff with the website. He's also got some money that some clients owe him. And we've got, so we picked up some business from there. There was another girl that was in there yesterday. And she was like, oh my God, let's go out on a night out. We've had another agency owner that works in like the health industry. So, you know, I love talking to people, but you're right, because in a gym setting, I probably would never ever talk to someone. But when I'm in the sauna, if someone's talking, I'll be like, oh yeah, yeah. So I think that's really interesting, actually.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, look, I feel like we could talk about that all day, Tom. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Anybody listening wants to follow along, obviously the links will be below, but where can they find you?
LinkedIn is the place to be, or Instagram. I'm trying to get better at Instagram. Cleo on our social media team is like, Tom, we need you to do more content and stuff, but I'll get there, I promise.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you very much, Tom.
Thanks for sticking around to the end, and I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're an agency owner that is wanting to scale and wants to continue bringing your business to new heights and doesn't want to put everything on pause for hiring and finding the best talent that's out there in SEO and paid media, well, that's something I can help with. I own a recruitment company that has specialized in both the SEO and paid media sector, and we work with 100+ businesses. So I'm going to leave 2 links below. There's no big pitch here, but if you want to talk over strategy and hiring and how myself and my team can find you the best A-player talent in both the SEO and paid media sector, then please book in, and I look forward to talking to you. Thank you.